guys, welcome back to another episode of Good Grief with Auntie Bird. And today I have like somebody really special in the building. She's kind of like a star, like a celebrity, like a, larger than life type of person. And I had to like beg her to be on here.
You didn't. You asked me one time. I said yes.
Okay. I asked her one time and she said yes.
Yeah.
I feel like mentally I begged her to be on here, but I'm so happy she came. This is Tuere Butler.
Hi.
I kind of want to give you an intro, but I want you to introduce yourself.
Oh, so you're gonna make me do all the work?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And then like I'll add to her intro because I feel like Tuere is kind of humble, but I'll add to your intro if like you don't say all of your accolades.
Okay, well, what do you want? What do you want me to tell the people?
Just who you are and what you used to do.
Okay.
And then you can share what you do now if you want to. If you don't have to share that part.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, my name's Tuere Butler. If you can't remember that, it's too airy, not too stuffy. I say that all the time. It helps people.
It does. It does.
I am originally from D.C., Washington, D.C., grew up in Washington, born in Boston. Go Celtics.
Oh,
so
gosh.
I had to. The parade was today.
Oh, gosh.
Came to Atlanta, Georgia for school. I went to Spelman and then graduated many, many years ago. But I served Congressman John Lewis for 22 years started as a staff assistant, ended as his district director. So I ran the Atlanta office, was in charge of the staff and the constituents of the 5th Congressional District, which houses 769,000 people.
I would have never given this type of intro. Keep going to it.
Okay. And so, leading the district office, being, I guess, the congressman's proxy when he couldn't attend events or could attend events, I staffed him. But in my areas of expertise was immigration, Homeland Security, military, veteran affairs, just to name a few.
Just to name a few. She was keeping us safe.
Yeah.
Just to name a few. Okay, so how do I know Tuere? Technically, she's my boss.
Yes.
She's my boss.
I'm your boss.
She is. But she also, to me, like, she's become, like, more than that these days. I've cried in her office so many times.
I'm not keeping count.
I know,
okay.
But I've cried. I can't even keep count anymore. I've cried in her office so many times. And I think you were probably, like, one of the first people here to know that I was going to start this podcast. I like shared it with you.
Yeah.
And then after like a couple of episodes, I wanted to like start exploring like grief a little bit more because like I always share like my type of grief is like heavy for me, like speaking about it all the time.
Right.
And I started noticing like I think people are going through grief in their own ways, and I just wanted to explore like the different forms of grief. And I know that we recently lost the congressman, and like you were his right hand person, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I was like, I don't think people explore the conversation about losing your employer.
Right.
Like I've never heard of, outside of like you sharing or like talking to your friends, I've never heard like a podcast or anybody like publicly talking about what that looks like for an individual, So this is why we're here, because she's this grand person who worked with another grand person, but also like she's a human who had an experience with somebody, and she lost them as well. So I'm pretty sure like that encompasses a whole nother form of grief that we need to explore.
Absolutely. I think grief comes in many forms, and I'm happy that you're opening up your platform to talk about the different ways that people lose, whether it's through family or boss employee relationships, or even dogs, pets, losing something that you worked hard for but you didn't attain your goal. That's a form of grief. There's all types of grief, so I'm excited for what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Her word means a lot to me. Okay, so I kind of want to jump in. Okay, you went to Spelman.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do like a little backtrack here.
Okay,
so you went to Spelman, graduated from Spelman. I know that like you originally thought about being a lawyer.
Yes.
At first. What was the transition from like leaving Spelman, wanting to be a lawyer, saying no, and working with the congressman?
So that was a 2-year experience. Let me back up even further. I wanted to be a lawyer because, one, growing up in D.C., it was my dad worked in politics as well. My cousin, who came from Boston to Howard, and he wanted to be a lawyer. So, like, when I was in high school, I was like, I'm gonna do this. This seems like a reputable profession, and there's so many different facets of the law that I could get involved in. I didn't have to be in the courtroom per se, but to have that legal background was very important to me.
Yeah.
So, like in high school, I did a summer at Syracuse University for law. I also did a summer at George Washington University for a law program.
Oh, you were deep into the
I was deep into
you
the
was
law.
deep into the law.
And at Spelman, I was president of the Pre-Law Society. I don't think I shared that with you.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So I've done a lot of different things. And when I graduated, I wanted to take a year off so that I could study for the LSAT. And it was the year of, I'm dating. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It was the year of the Olympics, and so that was like that was like really it was an exciting time.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be here in Atlanta. A Spelman sister of mine was working at King and Spalding Law Firm, and she was like, "Don't you want to go to law school?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so she told me to apply for the document clerk position, and so I did, and I got it. And I was working around the clock, like 60-hour weeks.
Oh, no.
Never saw my apartment. I would come home after several weekends, and there would just be dust inch thick in my apartment because I was always working.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And I was learning so much, and I was working with junior associates at the time on a big case. I won't say what case that is, but I was working with junior associates, and they were...
Was it that case?
It was that, no.
Oh.
No, you'll never find what case it is.
Oh, no.
I had to
Okay.
sign an NDA and
Oh,
everything.
dang.
But they were miserable.
The lawyers.
The lawyers were, and I think sometimes you can learn through experience or through school which path you're supposed to go down.
Yeah.
So I put that in my back pocket, like, they're miserable. I'm studying for the LSAT again, and then it was just like I'm not a good standardized test taker, but I am smart.
Yeah.
And I didn't get good marks on the LSAT, and so then I went to go speak to the president of Georgia State Law School, like, just give me. I graduated with honors from Spelman. Just give me a chance. And so I was working that angle, but then I was like, you know what? Let me just explore what else is out there.
Yeah.
A side note is I served on jury duty with, at the time, the CEO of Turner Broadcasting, Tom Johnson.
Yeah.
And I had a degree in English, so I was like, gave him my resume. I had an interview set up with him. And then the day before that interview, Congressman Lewis called me at my job at King and Spalding Law Firm.
How did Congressman get your information? Like, why did he call you?
Well, he called me because in college, I worked on several campaigns. I worked on the former mayor, Kasim Reed's campaign, not when he ran for mayor, his previous campaign. And I was very ambitious to say, thank you for this opportunity, but if you think of me, please pass my resume along. And 3 years later, he passed it to Congressman Lewis. Yeah.
Former Mayor Kasim passed your... That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't... I
don't really tell... I don't... Yeah.
That's dope.
I know. I know.
Wait,
yeah.
I have a question.
This is breaking news for you.
But that's dope, though.
Yeah.
Wait, okay. I want to go back and ask you a question about, like, realizing that, like, law wasn't for you. Because, like, you said your cousin and your dad worked in politics. Did you experience, like, some grief behind, like, not becoming?
Absolutely.
Or not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, what was
that?
that?
I think that's the reason why I mentioned it, because, you set a course for yourself.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is what I'm setting out to do. I did all this pre-work doing these programs with the intention of doing it. And for some reason, I didn't get into law school. Got into every college I applied for.
Yeah, all those summer programs.
All the summer programs, but didn't get into law school. So that was very emotional for me because I'm a checklist person. If I write it down, I want to be able to check it off. And it played on my psyche as well. Like, am I not good enough? Am I not smart enough? Why didn't I get in? I know people who
aren't half as smart as me.
Right. And it was just like a constant, like a little bit of embarrassment and shame, but grieving as well because it was something that I had set out to do and it didn't manifest. No.
Yeah. I feel like that's like I think that's a common thread in like the human experiences. Yeah. Especially when you know you're good. Like, I know that I'm good at this. Like, I know that I'm smart. And for some reason, God's like, no, like not this time.
Yeah. And you might never know that reason. Yeah. But for me, I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God, and I believe, he wants nothing but the best for me. Yeah. And so I have to rely on the fact that his ways are higher. But it's not like, oh yeah, his ways are higher and I'm fine with it. I'm like, Lord, no, for real. Did you miss it?
Like, why did you? Yeah. Like, why did you do that?
And sometimes it still happens, or it still is like, I'm not all the way like, yeah, I wasn't supposed to go to law school.
Like over the law school. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Does it come up when you meet other lawyers?
No, it comes up at the most random times.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. This is all so new. Okay. So.
So then the congressman.
So he called you.
He called me. I had 3 interviews. I had one with him. I had one with the chief of staff at the time, Rob Basson. And then I had one with the casework manager. And after those 3, then I got a call offering me a position.
And what was the position?
The position was staff assistant. So in the congressional office, you have, in district congressional office, not the legislative, it's staff assistant, constituent services, representative or liaison. You have an outreach person. You have scheduler, executive assistant. You might have a comms person, and then you have a district director. Oh,
so you got the staff position. What other roles did you play? Like, what was the progression of your career like after that?
So I was staff assistant, and basically every issue area that the other staffers did not want, because I'm new. Yeah. They gave it to me.
They threw it to you.
Yeah, it was like, like, oh, you do it.
Yeah.
But that helped me because basically I handled every issue area except for Social Security. Yeah. I handled every other issue area for a period of time, which I think helped me when I got promoted to district director. So I was staff assistant for a couple years. Then they changed that to constituent services. I was intern coordinator. What else did I do? I led the service academy for military appointments. Kids who want to go to West Point or the Naval Academy, Coast Guard. Did that for a while. And then I was acting district director. Then I was back to senior constituent services.
Oh, you did all the things.
And then I was district director.
So with being district director, that's when, of course you worked like hand in hand with him the entire time, but as district director, you were like.
Yeah, so it's chief of staff, and then you have the legislative director and the district director. So we're like I manage the Atlanta office, the legislative director, and manages like the leg staff in the DC office, and then the chief of staff covers all of us. Yeah. But we reported to him and we worked closely together.
Wow. So you, the congressman, y'all have this triangle. Right. What, like, because it's a 20-year time span.
22.
20, my bad. Don't leave the 2 off.
Yeah, don't leave the 2
Don't
off.
leave the 2 off. It's a 22-year time span.
Yeah.
What was the difference, and I might go a little deeper, but, like, what was the difference between Tuere from the law firm, or who thought she wanted to be a lawyer, versus district director? Like, what mentally, like, what was the difference? Or what, like, about yourself?
What was it? In terms of how I approach work?
In terms of how you approach work and how you approached, like, working with the group
Boss?
of people, your boss and the group of people that you were working with. Because you were, I just remember you just saying, like, when you were working with the lawyers, you noticed, like, they were burnt out, they were tired. But, like, what was because I can only imagine that the workload is still very heavy.
Yes.
There, right? Yeah. But, like, because you stayed there for 22 years. So, like, like, what was the difference between that workload and mental state versus the one when you were at the law firm?
Well, I think I think working in the political space in which I did for House of Representatives, there are people attached to the work that you do in the district office. Mm-hmm. The law firm, it was a case. Yes, there was a person or organization, whatever, attached to a case, but I'm working with everyday people all the time, and I'm helping to help them navigate the laws of the land through the Constitution and the legislative process, and then the procedures and rules and regulations that are associated with a federal agency. Yeah. So, for example, veteran affairs. A person could come home from serving, and then they want help to get their benefits because they served in whatever war, right? Yeah. If they don't know, they know that they're eligible for them, but they don't know how to attain them. Mm-hmm. Well, I know how to attain them. So I'm walking them through the process, whether they need to get their GI Bill for education, or whether they need to get their VA home loan because they qualify because they serve this country now. We do a service for them. Or whether they just need help getting to and from the VA medical center so that they can be treated for wounds or any type of issues that they might have procured when they were overseas serving our country. So it's like all of these things that, you know, it's hard for a person when I use veterans because they've served our country. Yeah. They went on tour duty, and when they're coming back, first they have to reacclimate back into civilian life, which is not easy. Right. So then you think about post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injury, which a lot of people had, and those are the non-tangible disabilities. Yeah. I'm not talking about people who got shot or lost a finger, lost a leg.
It's the mental.
It's the mental. Yeah. So you think every person is dealing with, okay, how do I
acclimate myself to this world?
And so now I can help them with that, because if they have a question, they live in the district, they call their member of Congress, they put in their application, but there's a delay, and they don't have anyone to advocate for them. That was the difference in the work that I was doing compared to what I was doing at the law firm.
It's like, even though it's heavy, I still get to see, like, it's not just on paper that I see the progress. I get to see the progress in person, like in human form.
Right.
Oh, okay. I can see that. And you're that person too, though.
Yeah.
Like, from what I know of you, like, you're that person who wants to see things, like, up front, live and direct. Like, if I can see it's happening, if I can see you smile, then I know that my job is being done.
Right. And sometimes it wasn't always in the positive. Sometimes I was delivering, you know, difficult news where, like, for immigration, for instance, someone had put in to, you know, get their spouse from overseas. They put in a visa, and it it's delayed or it hasn't come through yet, or a student who needed a student visa to go overseas to study. All of these things, sometimes and even for veterans, it wasn't always positive.
Yeah.
But I was able to develop a way to communicate in treating people with a dignity and a respect.
Yeah.
That even though I was giving them bad news or hard news, they still left the table knowing that they had someone in their corner.
Did you feel like you learned that from the congressman?
Yeah.
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 How was he, like, working with him for 22 years? Like, how was he as a leader? How was he as an employer? And then, like, how was he as a person?
As a leader, he was larger than life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I first started working for him, it's very intimidating because you're like, this is the man who, marched with Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
This is the man who marched across Edmund Pettus Bridge and, was beat unconscious and spent however many visits in jail. This is...
who literally fought for me to be in this office.
Yes. Who fought for me to be in this office, who fought for us African Americans to have the right to vote.
Yeah.
Like, there was so much that was attached to him as a leader that was just like overwhelming.
Yeah.
And he started when he was the age that I started working for him.
Yeah.
So that was like I can't even put words to it, honestly. I can't put words to it. But it was larger than life. And him as a person, he's funny. He's just he was funny.
Yeah.
He was messy.
Yeah.
He liked the drama. And when he said drama, he would use his hands. He would be like, drama. And he was sweet, you know? So it's kind of like either like a father figure or a grandfather, who you just want to do your best and you want to make proud.
Yeah.
And he had high expectations for not only himself, but also for everyone who worked for him.
Yeah.
And so that comes with
I was about to say that's
another
a lot.
another bag of anxiety or just pressure to want to do your job well, but also you want to make him proud in the process.
Yeah.
Because essentially all the work that we're doing, we're representing him, and then he's representing the people.
Yes.
And you didn't want him to look bad. It wasn't about an ego thing. It was like, no, we want to put our best foot forward.
And then it's a legacy attached to him.
It was all of it.
Yeah. So that's a lot.
At the same time.
Yeah. At the same time. That's a lot. I always think back, I always think about, like, I'm not saying I don't know if I could have done that job, but just knowing how much was attached to him as a person, it makes you want to, like, step it up. And I feel like you do that for our workspace. We won't get into our workspace, but I'm just saying. But I do feel, and I share that with you. Like, I do feel like because we have a team I think our team is, like, excellent.
Yeah.
And I think everybody does their job very well. We're small, but we're mighty. But I feel like the leaders, I call it the E-suite leaders, but I feel like they're excellent. And then I feel like you do a really good job at picking people well to, like, work together. And it just makes all of us want to do our job better. So I'm pretty sure that kind of trickled him
it definitely did. I mean, there was low turnover in the office.
That's good.
He didn't have to, like, let go of anybody because it was like this unspoken expectation that if you're on this team, Team Lewis, you're badass.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes,
And everybody had giftings, and everybody had something that they were really, really good at and passionate about. And sometimes he would let us, explore that or push him in that direction.
Yeah. Do you feel like he created, like, a family environment in the workspace?
Yeah, there were times like he loved to gather for birthdays. He was a big I remember one birthday I was going on a trip, but I was leaving later, and I was running out, and I said bye, and he was like, "Wait, we didn't have cake," and I was like, "It's okay," and he was like, "No, no," but he liked to celebrate.
That's you. Are you him reincarnated?
No,
Because this is you.
no, he liked to celebrate. We loved to celebrate his birthday.
Yeah.
He always made time to. I think the district office got. I think he was in the office more for his birthday than he was in Washington.
Yeah.
But that's just because of the schedule.
Right.
Not because he favored one office more than the other.
Because the district office was in Georgia.
Yeah, in Atlanta, right downtown, in the old Equitable building, which is now Georgia's own.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Peachtree.
Yeah, he didn't like it. Was just a scheduling issue.
You're gonna get me in trouble.
It was just a scheduling issue.
Colleagues.
So, okay, let's kind of like dive a little bit deeper into like he passed, like his passing. So he passed in 2020, right?
Yep.
Which was
July 17th.
Well, it don't seem like that long, but it has been that long, huh?
Yes.
Wow. So I was thinking about when he passed, and then I was thinking about everything that was happening in the world at that time.
Yeah.
So it's pandemic going on. It's racial unrest here in America.
Yeah.
Some things happening overseas as well.
Yep.
And then we get the news that he passed. Before I jump into like what else was happening with you, because there were other things happening in your life at the same time, like when he passed, like what was the feeling? Because were you in the office when you got the news, or were you?
I was at home.
Okay.
We were working from home at that time. It was 11 o'clock at night that we got the news from our chief of staff.
Wow. Was it expected or like y'all?
No, I mean, he came out to the staff in December 30th, 2019, that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And that day was heavy.
Yeah.
I was having lunch with one of our DC staffers here. He was home for Christmas, and we weren't expected back into the office until January 6th.
It's also so many things happening.
So we were having lunch, but we knew we had to get on the call. So we parted ways, and I was walking back on the belt line back to my house. And when I received the news that he had cancer, I had to stop walking and just sit down.
Yeah.
Because that was heavy.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what does this mean? Then my mind, the way my mind works is like, okay, what do we need to do?
Yeah. You're a fixer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does he want to do?
Yeah.
How are we going to move forward? How should the office run? What messaging? Like, it was like a faucet. It wouldn't turn off. So then we go back to work January 6th, and that was a whole situation. But he was like, I have a good team of doctors. We're going to fight this. So I want all of y'all to, this is work as usual.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of person he was.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is a blip, but we still have work to do.
Did that feeling trickle down to the rest of the team?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Everybody was, the rest of my Christmas holiday, I was in one of the rooms in my house, like our TV room, and I never turned on the light. The only people who I could really talk to were people on my team, because
they're the only people who knew.
They were only people who knew, but then he made the announcement.
Yeah.
I think December 30th. Through news and everything. But it was a lot. And so I think for comfort, we relied heavily on each other to have conversations or just sit on the phone and just be silent.
Yeah.
But then, once he decided, okay, I'm going to fight this and I still want to serve in Congress, then we were like, okay.
Yeah.
So it was like a shift. And we were business as usual.
Yeah.
But also being very intentional in terms of caring for him.
Yeah.
Our chief of staff and other people on our staff in DC and some people here did a phenomenal job of like just taking care of him.
I was going to ask you, did you feel like during the time frame in which he gave you guys the news, and then after his passing, do you feel like you guys were supported, like as far as grieving is concerned, you feel like you guys were supported well, or did you feel like you guys had to figure it out?
Supported well by who?
I guess by, I don't want to say the government, but I would think that they would. I mean, you guys work for this huge district, you know what I mean?
I feel like the constituency, there was an outpouring.
Yeah.
I mean, nationally and globally, right?
Yeah. And not to cut you off, and I only asked that question because I think we forget that a human is attached to more than just their families.
Yeah.
I know when my parents passed away, that was hard for me to recognize, like, this is your mom and your dad. Like, like they're my people, but they were also sisters and brothers and teachers and coaches, and so they meant something to other people. So it's like, I feel like the people who were attached to them externally probably don't get consoled. You spent 22 years with the person. Yeah. Some family members didn't see him for, that long. You spent more time in, not to...
No. It's just different in proximity.
Yeah.
But I think it was different for each person on our team.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put words in their mouth. Yeah. But it was, I'll just say it was a lot, because you're trying to think rationally, because it was, you had asked earlier, was it unexpected? For me, I didn't think that he was going to.
Yeah.
Like he had qualified to run again in March. And
gearing up for it.
We were, figuring that out. And there were times where, energy level, and obviously he was ill. But I just didn't, I don't know what I was thinking. And maybe it was because everything, so much was happening at the same time. But when I got the news, I felt like the wind had gotten out of me.
Yeah.
So it was just like...
Who did you lean on after that, though?
Well, the team.
Yeah.
But I was dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
It was during COVID.
Yeah.
So like we talked, but I couldn't see it. You couldn't see anybody.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh,
I can go give you a hug.
No.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was very... I couldn't call my parents.
Yeah.
I mean, I called them, but I couldn't see them.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw really anybody, because we were still being very
distant. We had to be
cautious and distant.
I can't recall what was his funeral setting, because I know
he had three.
He had three.
So he had one here.
Okay.
That was the last one. The first one was in Troy.
You guys were able to be there in person?
Those two, yeah.
Okay.
I did not go to all three.
Okay.
I only went to the one here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I because of what was happening with me personally, I had to make some decisions that were to protect me, because what we haven't shared yet, and I'll just say, my husband almost died of COVID in the very beginning, and so I was dealing with that at the same time, and it was just a lot.
Yeah. I was gonna, I don't know if you want to bring it up, but that's something that
fine.
I knew, like, in your personal life, you had Nate going through this whole, wait, should I have said his name?
Well, if you say my name, then I think they'll...
You can Google her and you'll Google him. Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. So, like, Nate was, like, either recovering, like, after he passed?
Nate had just got out of his second surgery. Mm-hmm. So he had 2 surgeries.
Yeah.
2 lung collapses. It was 162 days that I was taking care of him.
Yeah.
In the midst of
going to work.
The congressman, the civil and racial unrest here.
Yeah. So you like pause a lot in Tuere.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
You pause a lot, and like in those pauses, I hear a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a lot. Right. It's just a lot. Like, what is happening with you then, though? Like,
I'm on autopilot. Like, I had a breakdown after the congressman's funeral here. I finally had a breakdown. Mm-hmm. But just to paint a picture.
Yeah.
I was working around the clock.
Mm-hmm.
I would listen in my house. My husband was downstairs and I was upstairs while he was recovering. So he was quarantined for I don't know how many days.
Yeah.
Damn near a month.
Yeah.
And some change aside from going back and forth to the hospital. So I would listen. I had a schedule for him. I would listen to hear if he was coughing, and that's how I knew he was alive. You know? And then I'm dealing with people who are calling like, I'm stuck on a boat.
Yeah.
And my spouse has a fever and I need help getting home.
Yeah.
And I had a mission trip crew in Peru trying to get them back on stateside before those borders closed. So it was just a lot.
Yeah.
And I had made the decision for myself which was very hard to like, okay, to leave
work.
Mm-hmm. So
this was after the congressman passed.
No, this is before.
This is before.
Yeah.
Wow.
But then I stayed on because I delayed my new position. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't take a break in between Nate and the congressman?
No.
There was like no break.
I had a 2-week break, but then it was his funerals. So 1 week, because Nate was well enough, we drove to the beach.
Yeah.
Just so he could get some fresh air, and be by the water, and not be in our house.
Yeah.
And then the next week was the funeral in Atlanta, so I did that. And then work. I didn't have time.
Did you crash?
I didn't crash. I crashed one day in my house. Like, I just broke down.
Yeah.
But, well, you know me. Then I went back to work.
She went right.
I went right back to work. But I was able to, there were a couple things that helped me with my grieving process. I was able to attend a program at On-Site for emotional emotionally smart leadership. But I was able to work through a lot of grief there. And then I had a counselor when the congressman first came out with the cancer diagnosis. What I didn't mention was my first day back at work, January 6th. My grandmother passed. And then 2 days later, our dog of 13 years, I went downstairs and found him not being able to use his back leg, so we had to put him down. And I was still working, you know what I'm saying? So my chief was like, hey, I want you to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And so that counselor, I was able to meet. I went home to DC for the funeral, and I had a counseling session with him, only one in person, and then the rest were on the phone.
Yeah.
And he would check in with me and would encourage me, like, hey, you know, take him. Like, I think Nate wanted to take me to LA. This was in January, and I was fighting, like, no, I shouldn't leave.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, you should.
You should.
So I took that 2 days off of work, plus the weekend.
And then you went right back to work. Okay, so okay, yeah. Okay, so Tuere, like you were like this high, like you perform well in like high intensity situations. You perform well, clearly, like you can perform when it's like work needs to be done. How has that trait, the one you just described, right? How has it helped you in like your grieving process? And also, like, looking back on it now, how did it hinder you?
Well, I think it helped me because I was able to compartmentalize thoughts and emotions so that I didn't leave the work that needed to be done. Like, I felt like I wasn't leaving anybody hanging.
Yeah.
Or they weren't, it wasn't even about deadlines at that time. It was just people. You know, I didn't leave anybody out.
Yeah.
Right? But the hindrance in that is that I did leave people out, and that was myself and my husband.
Yeah.
And so that was, you know, a hard lesson learned, you know what I mean, of prioritization.
Yeah.
People say work-life balance all the time, and I don't say that.
Yeah.
You have to prioritize your family.
Yeah.
And at that time I wasn't, and it wasn't good.
What do you think, like, if the congressman, like, after his passing, and he, like, say if he was still alive and he, like, saw you during this whole time, like, what do you think he would have, what advice would he have given you?
Probably, like, it's okay. That was his phrase.
Yeah.
He would probably say it's okay. I mean, he was so, and let me say this, I don't want to say I didn't prioritize my husband when he was going through stuff. But when I look back on my span, my career span, there were times where I didn't take a vacation when I should have. You know what I'm saying? So that prioritization wasn't there, and that needed to be. So all of that shifted, right? So in a way, the hindrance that was a hard lesson learned was a hard lesson learned that I will never forget.
Yeah. That
I won't do that again.
Yeah.
Now there are times when I should leave work early. You know, but I'm doing so much better in terms of taking vacation.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna switch gears just a little bit. Okay. So let's move to taking vacations because you just took a sabbatical.
Yeah.
Did things come up during your sabbatical?
Yes.
Did you grieve something during the sabbatical?
Yeah.
Would you like to share?
Well,
if you can share, like, what did you?
Well, shoot. I mean, it was COVID.
Yeah.
It was.
Because that's a trigger. I think people, like, when you think about
lying dormant.
Yeah. And the silence is loud.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when people think about folks taking sabbatical, on camera it looks like I went to this, like, grand place, but, like, mentally, probably a couple of days, it was like, hey, I went to a dark space.
No, it was funny because in waves, it was like 4 weeks. So the first week, Nate was out of town and we were still here in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But that first week was very loud in the silence. It was so, like, he wasn't home. It was just me and the dog, and the silence was so loud, I was uncomfortable.
Oh, wow.
Because it was like...
I know that feeling.
Right. Like, you're unplugging from work. So no computer, no work calls. I tried to, like, not be on social media. And I would wake up and be like, okay, what does Tuere want to do today?
Yep.
And I didn't even know.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like,
yes.
Should I sleep in or should I do my this list that I have?
Could you go back to that person?
I go back to who I've been and how I've worked for years.
Yeah.
So that was, I made myself one day sit on my couch, no TV, no phone. And I was just like, I just want to sit in the stillness and be uncomfortable because I felt as though I had to.
What did you learn from that experience, though? It's crazy you have to force yourself to do that. But, like, what did you learn from that?
That I can't be afraid of the silence. I can't be afraid of the stillness.
Yeah.
I think now, especially, there's so much going on all the time. You can, like, really be doing a million things. Like, you have your computer open, you're doing your work, but you have Spotify on, and then you got the Slack channel on, you got, your messaging up, and then you're checking this and all the different screens, and you know how I had my screen, which was crazy. Like, but just stop. Yeah. And be still and sit in those feelings and allow them to come up and wrestle with them. Yeah. And that was hard as hell. So that was week 1. Yeah. Then week 2, we go to New Zealand. And we're having a great time. We're staying with friends who we love. We're reconnecting with people we have been 14 years prior. We're seeing them. We're eating the best food. The weather's perfect. And one day we were sitting around the dinner table, and a friend of mine, her mom, asked about, how it was with Nate, taking care of him. And she was like, but did anybody look out for you? Yeah. And I lost it. Because it was hard. Yeah. And
Did anybody, though? Or did you allow anybody to?
Probably not.
Yeah.
One, I had this conversation earlier. One, because at that time in early 2020, when he had it, when I dropped him off at the hospital, and they were like, well, you can't come in, and the people are coming out with the hazmat suits to come and get him like he's an alien and not a human being. There was so much shame around if you had it. Yeah. Whereas now it's like, oh, you got COVID. Well, okay, we'll see you in 7 days type thing. There wasn't enough information. And, I'm spraying down groceries and putting stuff in my car because, I had equipment that needed to be passed out to my team. Yeah. But I didn't want to put it in my house because I didn't want to infect a cardboard box. Yeah. Yeah. But that was a thought process then, though. Right. That was a thought process. There was this shame around it. Now, I had a core group of people who would call and check in and pray. We have people around the country praying, even in New Zealand praying. but in terms of like someone giving me a hug, because they couldn't, right? Because they couldn't. So that was when I think about that, it was isolating. So as much as my husband was isolated in this room of fighting for his life,
it was happening to you too in a different way.
Yeah.
Wow. So week 2, she asked you this question, you lost it.
Yeah. Then I had to sit in that and kind of just let it all out. And I cry, but I don't cry in front of people. All like that. You know. And it was the ugly cry, like the snot, like wiping my. It would not stop. But it was something that I needed to do, and that showed me that grief isn't a timestamp. It's not.
It'll pop up on you in New Zealand.
It'll pop up on you in New Zealand.
It'll pop up on you in New Zealand.
And there are some times when, like last year, yes, it was last year when the congressman stamped. So I was doing the conversation with Rose Scott. Before going over to Morehouse, and lost it too. Even though that was a celebration.
I remember you said like you couldn't go to something else. You was like, no, I think I'm done.
So it's just, I don't think that we should talk about grief in a sense of, okay, well, you'll grieve for a period and then it'll
be over. You'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. But it's with you. Now it's a part of just how we carry joy and love with us. It's a part of our story. So,
What did, and I know you had to let it go. What did working with the congressman like teach you about being a leader that you were able to like pass on to everybody who was under you? And then also, like, what have you learned about yourself since he passed away that has kind of like changed the way that you like see the world or the way that you move in the world?
Well, he taught me as a leader that I try to pass on. I mean, you could answer that question more than me. Is I try to be accessible. And in the mud with the people I'm leading. Like I've lived longer, and so I've had more experiences, but that doesn't mean that I'm so up here that I am above doing something. The congressman we would have constituent days where constituents from the district would come in and have meetings with him, and they would be scheduled like every half hour. And they always met in his office, and he would have a staffer in there, depending on the issue area or whatever, take notes to add context to give information. But if there were 3 chairs in the office and 5 people were coming, he would move the chair from the common area into his office. And I'd be like, no, Congressman, I got no.
Right.
We're supposed to offer the staff Coke and peanuts. Which we did when they came in. But as soon as they sat down, would anybody like a Coke and peanuts? Because he wasn't above
doing it.
He wasn't above serving as well.
I remember, I shared this with you, but I'm a fight for power. And I remember we were marching downtown. It was pouring down, raining, but we still marching. And I look over to my left, and I'm like, is this who I think it is marching right next to me? Like, it is storming, it is raining, and like it's probably like 2,000 people out there marching. I'm like, is this who I think it is? Like marching right next to me, and it's Congressman John Lewis is like marching next to me in the rain,
and he hated the rain.
In a full suit and tie with like no sneakers on. He had
his dress shoes
on in the rain. And when I asked to take a picture, he was like, "Yes, young lady, you're doing it." And I was like, first of all, this is a whole thing. It's like Congressman John Lewis. But I was amazed at the fact that this man had already done this for me decades ago. But this man is right here with me in the rain marching for a cause. And like you said, like he wasn't above that. And you do that. You do that. You march with us on a day-to-day basis. Like you're not too good to go and like pull a chair or pick something up or
or try to figure out some technology.
Amen.
Or clean a toilet.
I don't do that. But yes. She's not too good for that. But okay, so the last question. What has like your grieving experience from like 2020 on like up until now, like what has it taught you? And then like how has it taught you just to like move through the world in regards to grieving?
I think I know for me, I to show vulnerability.
That's true.
Especially like I'm an only child. I worked in a space where you didn't show too much. You held your cards close. But when you do that, you aren't inviting people in to journey with you, to be there for you, to hold you accountable. Like no Tuere, like you know what I'm saying? You're holding them at arm's length. And so I know that his passing and the grief of losing a boss who was more than a boss to me, and everything that I went through in 2020 has shown me like be vulnerable, and it's okay. I don't have to have it all together. Like I could just show up, and that's enough.
And I'm enough.
And I'm enough. I didn't operate that way. I didn't operate that way. I would never. If you had caught me in 2019, I would never say that.
Like you always had to be on target, on point.
Or at least I felt that I did. But I don't think that was accurate. It wasn't. It wasn't. So that's the encouragement, because when you're vulnerable, then you open up the space for other people to be vulnerable in their strengths and in their weakness. And that's what this is about, right? An exchange of our strengths and weaknesses.
She knows how to close a show. But thank you, Tuere, for sitting down with me and sharing and being vulnerable. I appreciate it. I learned a lot about you. In these little minutes that we didn't sit down. And like I appreciate it because I just know like it's not easy. Even when it's easy, it's still not easy to like relive and replay things out. So I do appreciate you. Thank you guys again for listening and watching another episode of Good Grief with Auntie Bird, and we'll be back another time. See ya.